Welcome to the YouTube video. Today we're going to be watching some true crime, perhaps not true crime today. If you don't already know, we have a React Suggestions tab in our Discord server. So if you have videos you might want us to see that might be interesting to watch together, you can always go to my Discord and post them there. If you are watching on YouTube, it means you missed the stream, but I stream almost every single day on Twitch except Sundays. And don't forget to subscribe because, you know, you got to
raise my balls up.
Anyway, let's play the intro. Alrighty, let's watch something sort of true crime, sort of not, called The Oregon Cult Invasion Bioterror by Fascinating Horror. I don't know why all of these are low value.
On the 2nd of October, 1985, FBI investigators entered a ranch in rural Oregon. They were investigating rumors about the commune that lived there, a religious community of around 7,000 people who worshipped and studied the teachings of a mysterious leader known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. They appeared peaceful. They wore red robes, cultivated the land, prayed and meditated. They welcomed visitors. They held festivals. The ranch was a place where people went to seek enlightenment. But in the medical center of this unique community, FBI investigators found something that told a different story. They found evidence of a crime of unprecedented magnitude, a crime that had risked hundreds of lives. Chandra Mohan Jain was born in 1931 and found work as an academic in his home country of India in the 1950s. He taught philosophy for several years, before leaving his job at the University of Jabalpur to independently tour the country, first lecturing on philosophical subjects, and later preaching on religious topics to an ever-growing band of followers. In 1974, he founded an ashram, or religious retreat, in Pune, which attracted many followers from Western countries. It grew rapidly, and around this time Chandra started to go by a different name, Bhagwan or Lord Sri Rajneesh. Many of his followers regarded him, at this time, as akin to a god, but among those outside this community, he was most often referred to simply as Rajneesh, and his followers as Rajneeshis. These followers now numbered in the thousands, and the group were the subject of a significant amount of media attention. But with this attention came difficulties. The Indian government began pursuing Rajneesh over a matter of unpaid taxes.
Classic.
And the guru began to look into the possibility of establishing an ashram elsewhere in the world. In 1981, assisted by his newly appointed secretary Ma Anand Sheela, Rajneesh travelled to the United States and established a commune there, just outside the town of Antelope,
aren't
Oregon.
Better about taxes,
The land,
by the way.
purchased by Sheila's then husband, had previously been a cattle ranch. Rajneesh told authorities that he intended only to establish a small farming community.
Right.
But over the next few years, as many as 7,000 of his followers...
Hey, look, it's a suburb. I love how this is supposed to be like a jarring image of like copy-paste cult like houses, and then you go into any new suburban construction and it is literally like this.
Hi.
It is exactly like this, where like all of the houses are like cookie corner copy paste. My neighborhood's like this. Not this bad. Like there's a lot differences in like the layout and the paint, and like the further in you go, further out you go, like the layout, like the size and layout changes. But like there are some houses around here in other neighborhoods where it is literally like the same thing for streets. Like this is supposed to be off-putting. It's literally normal now, which is ridiculous.
Came to live on the land, creating a settlement with its own public transit system, school, police station, and shopping mall. The community, named Rajneeshpuram, even had its own airport and own airline.
What?
It was home to a range of industries and invited visitors for meditation and religious retreats, as well as for occasional large-scale festivals.
Fucking what?
Naturally, tensions arose between this large new community and the tiny town of Antelope, the population of which at the time was just 60.
Wow.
These tensions escalated when the Rajneeshis began to move into Antelope and put themselves forward for positions of influence in the surrounding county, including school boards and local government. To ensure that their candidates
Well,
prevailed,
that's what they do.
the groups bussed in and accommodated thousands of homeless people from neighboring counties, registered them as residents, and pressured them to vote in a way that favored the commune. It was in this manner that the Rajneeshis won a referendum concerning the name of Antelope and saw the town rebranded as the town of Rajneesh. Throughout the early 1980s, the situation grew more fraught. Rajneesh's personal secretary, Ma Anand Sheela, felt that the Rajneeshis were unfairly persecuted, a feeling validated by the hostility of the group's nearest neighbors,
I'm sure.
constant legal challenges, and unfavorable depictions in the media. There, Rajneeshis were sometimes referred to as red rats, after the red garments they wore, and the organization as a whole was described as a cult. In response, Sheela stated publicly that the group were willing to spill blood if necessary. Rajneesh himself became increasingly concerned about security and appointed more and more armed guards, who received military-like training. Automatic weapons became a common sight within the Rajneeshi community. But, despite this, the commune, or perhaps cult, continued to grow. Soon, more space was needed. Senior Rajneeshis decided that it would be beneficial to expand into the nearby city of the Dals, which had an established population of over 10,000. The group made plans to gain control there by having members elected to positions in local government. While some Rajneeshis already lived in the Dals, they were in the minority. Some manipulation, therefore, would be required to secure the desired political victory. Thus, within the increasingly tense and paranoid environment of the commune, a plan was formed. They would poison the town.
Bruh.
Not severely enough to cause widespread death or mayhem, but severely enough to cause most residents of the Dals to stay home on the day of the next election. A test of this bizarre plan was carried out in August 1984, with followers wearing normal clothing, moving throughout the Dals, and spraying water contaminated with salmonella onto door handles and grocery store produce. Salmonella is a bacterium that can cause salmonellosis, an infection characterized by severe vomiting, diarrhea, fever, and cramps.
Yep.
Salmonellosis is often referred to as food poisoning and can be deadly in the very young, the elderly, or those with underlying medical conditions. The bacterium which causes it is usually spread by animals,
Pickles.
or by contact with animal feces. In this case, the Rajneeshis had attempted to spread salmonella deliberately, but no noticeable wave of illness resulted.
Damn.
And so, they ran a second
bro.
test. In September 1984,
Skippers.
a small number of selected Rajneeshis donned normal clothes and ventured into 10 different restaurants in the Dals. There, they used plastic bags full of salmonella-infected water to contaminate salad bars and other cold food items on display. The results of this test run were much more dramatic. Within hours of the operation, dozens of residents had fallen ill, with many ending up in hospital. As the outbreak continued, local health facilities risked being overwhelmed. By the end of the month, 751 people had fallen ill.
Damn.
One pregnant mother gave birth shortly after becoming infected, with her child barely surviving.
Oof.
Elsewhere, elderly residents were at risk of death by dehydration as they suffered acute diarrhea and vomiting that in some cases lasted for days. Investigators from the Oregon State Public Health Laboratory sought to identify the source of the outbreak. They initially stated that poor hygiene practices at the 10 restaurants involved in the outbreak were the most likely cause. It was only later, after much public outcry and further testing, that the Rajneeshis became suspect. Finally, the year after the attack, police searched the commune and found samples of the exact strain of salmonella that had spread through the Dals.
Science is so
It had been
cool.
purchased from a legitimate lab supply company. then cultured at a medical facility within Rajneesh. As the investigation developed, Rajneesh, Sheila, and a number of senior Rajneeshis left the country on private flights from the commune's own airport. Both Rajneesh and Sheila were later extradited back to the US to face criminal charges. Sheila was found to have been responsible for a number of crimes. It was she who had orchestrated the mass poisoning, and she who had further planned to contaminate the town's water supply with salmonella prior to Election Day. She had also made plans for political assassinations, dug escape tunnels, stockpiled weapons, and bugged the entire Rajneeshi compound with hidden microphones and cameras. Rajneesh himself claimed to have no knowledge of these crimes.
Of course.
He was found, however, to have committed an immigration-related offence and was forced to leave the country and return to India. With its leaders no longer present,
she had no clue.
The commune disbanded. Sheila served 2.5 years in a minimum security prison and was then forced to leave the US. She took refuge in Switzerland, where she went on to run 2 homes for the elderly. Rajneesh died of a heart-related medical issue in India in 1990. His books and teachings remain popular to this day, and his followers number in the tens of thousands around the world. Once the commune in Oregon had dissolved, the town of Rajneesh became the town of Antelope once more. Peace returned to the tiny community. There was, however, a lasting impact. Many of the restaurants targeted by the Rajneeshis never recovered, and eventually went out of business. A plaque was installed in Antelope to recognize the turbulent events the town endured in the 1980s. It includes a quote attributed to politician and writer Edmund Burke. "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." The marker is further dedicated to those of this community who, throughout the Rajneesh invasion and occupation of 1981 to 1985, resisted and remembered.
Whoa. That was wild. I've never heard of that before. That was cool. What a wild little story about a cult I've never heard of.